Welcome back to Independent Blazers. I'm Dan.
I'm Joe.
And today we're going to do another response video to Frank Turek. But before we do, Joe?
Folks, please like, subscribe, share, bang the notification bell, folks. Helps the algorithm. It also helps us and helps you keep up with the latest of our doings. And also, please, folks, check out our account on X, formerly known as Twitter, for all our latest commentary and opinions and the latest goings on and the news, to keep up with the news about the channel. Dan, what are we talking about today?
All right. We're talking about Frank Turek and his response to a question. Now, something I've always wondered about religious people is, particularly Christians, they say, we're here whether we like it or not. We didn't choose to be here, yet we have to pay for something we didn't do. And I will say in advance that I do not like Frank Turek's analogy. Now, this is not putting down his character. Actually, Frank Turek seems like a pretty decent person. I just don't like his analogy. What he believes is way different than what I believe, but I will explain why as it comes along. And so now, let's take a look and see.
Yes, sir. Our final two questions. Here they are. Are you a doctor?
No, I'm a pharmacist.
Oh. I was going to ask you if this was infected to you. What's your name?
I do get asked that a lot.
You do? Okay.
My name's Blake.
Blake, when they say that, do you say, yeah, have that cut off immediately?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
My brother came with me tonight, and he has some doubts. He's asked me this question many times, and he had to leave to go to work, so he asked me to ask it for him. Would it be okay if I videotape the answer so I can show him?
Or it's actually going to be, he can watch it.
Okay.
And with you saying it,
Okay.
it's going to be on Facebook.
It'll be recorded.
Oh, yeah, it's
Okay.
going to be up there.
I don't need to record them. So the question is, we didn't choose to be created, but God created us. And then if we don't choose him, we're punished for eternity. So I guess his question is, okay, I do have some type of choice in this life. Maybe the people that have never heard about Jesus don't, know as much as I do, but I still didn't choose to be created. That's his question. Mm-hmm. So how do I justify that in my mind? He's trying to make sense of that.
This is a moral objection. And my question to him is, if God doesn't exist.
Sir. I've wondered that very same thing myself about what people believe. How we didn't choose to be here, yet there's only one way out, according to some people's beliefs. And that's always bothered me. And it's also been based upon what we cannot see, what's beyond the five empirical senses. And I always thought that's kind of cruel to do, but I'd like to show you Frank Turek's analogy, and then I'll give my response to that itself.
Okay.
Where are you getting your moral standard from to say that the way God does it is wrong? Right? He's saying, if I was God, I would do it a different way. Well, what way would you do it? Whether you're created by God or created by evolution, whatever that means, none of us have a choice. Right? We're here. But say you, let's just give an analogy here. Let's say that you're a small child, or you're even a teenager. You're taken out on a boat by your parents. You're going on this trip, right? You don't want to go, but you go anyway. And then the boat starts sinking. You didn't choose to be there. But somebody pulls up with another boat to save you. Are you just going to sit there and go, I didn't want to be on this boat. I shouldn't be here. Or are you going to get into the rescue boat? Right? I mean, if God sends a savior.
Yeah, see, that's the part I found just contradictory. You see, who is, quote unquote, Yahweh or God or whatever, Yahweh saving people from? But the very world he created himself. Him knowing it was going to be that way before that person was born. Now, Joe, let me ask you a question. If I knew you were hungry and I made your favorite food just the way you like it, but I told you not to eat it, and I left my place knowing you would eat it. Then I come back, I see you've eaten it even though I told you not to, and I told you it's been poisoned. And that the only way to live is to take the antidote from me. but if you take the antidote, you're going to have to serve me the rest of your life. Would you think I was a nice person?
Absolutely not. I would think, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have eaten the food you told me not to, but you knew I was hungry and you put the temptation in front of me. You left me in your condo.
Correct.
So,
Right. And there's more though. They talk about putting their saving. Here's another question.
well, let me counter you.
Oh, sure.
Do we have the mind of God? Do we understand God?
Well, okay. For one thing, what is God? That's another question.
True.
See, people have been trying to figure out who or what a higher power is for millennia, since the beginning of civilization, and no one's really had a solid conclusion. So the mind of God, I think that's way too broad. But here's something else. When he mentioned a boat trip, I thought of something else. What if I took a small child on a boat trip and then I pushed that small child into the water, knowing that they couldn't swim and the waters were freezing and shark infested? And I said to the little child, here, I'll throw you a life vest. I'll throw you a life vest, but if you take it, you're going to have to serve me the rest of your life. Nobody would say I was a nice person, would they? They would think, what would you think of me if I did something like that?
Well, I would think you're not a nice person. I think you're vindictive and your motive. I wouldn't even give you credit for saving the person. But then again, the point is, you are not in charge of the creation, and you are not God. And again, I'm playing devil's advocate here. I'm not saying I agree or I disagree, but
and that's the whole point right there, though. Saying they're saving you for something that was created by that same person who saved you, who could have stopped it from happening in the first place. And I say, no, that doesn't add up to me. And I say, and so to say, and if you don't, you're going to drown. And then not only that, not only are you going to drown, you're going to suffer for eternity after you drown. That's just plain cruel. And I could never, or here's another analogy. How about this? How about someone's driving through a town? There's only one road through. I know this. I put a bed of, roll spikes that pop tires.
yeah.
Let's say I put them there, knowing there's only one way a car could go through. Well, sure enough, the car's tires are popped, and then I, quote unquote, come to the rescue, say, hey, I have a tow truck service. Except I'm charging them an extortionate amount. But I'm the only tow truck service in town, and that's the only road out of town. What would you think of me? What would you think of my character if I set up those circumstances?
I know I wouldn't like it, but yeah, I would think you're a scam artist and a terrible person. And yes, I see the point. I see that gentleman's point, the pharmacist young man there in the video, and I don't pretend, like I said, to understand everything. Yes, I'll do if Christianity is true, or I'm going to say Christianity because I'm assuming this gentleman here speaking in the front of the class or the lecturer is a Christian.
Yeah, Frank Turek. He's a famous Christian apologist.
So, yeah, am I a Christian? Am I struggling in my faith? The answer is yes, and this is one of the reasons I'm struggling because I don't totally understand this neither. It's like if I make a computer, right? Mm-hmm. You're like, let me put it back on you in a sense. You say, Joe, I need you to make me a computer. I'm going to pay you this amount. All right, no problem. I'll give it to you tomorrow. I make the computer. I make it defective on purpose. So maybe it has trouble starting or the screen blanks out after a certain amount of time. I did it on purpose. But I'm the only guy you can come to fix it. I'm the only one who has this particular patent. And then every week you have to come to me, and I expect you to bow down and thank me. That's and if you don't come to me, you get no computer, meaning you can't do your schoolwork or you can't do this and that. but I expect you to praise me and thank me and tell everyone I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Well, how about this? Let's add on to it. And if I say, well, screw you, I'm just going to go buy a computer elsewhere, I'll just save some more. And then you violently threaten me and say, no, you can't buy a computer elsewhere. You do, you're dead.
I'm going to stab you. I say, well,
I'm going to stab you, shoot you, garrote you, whatever it is.
But you still have to be my friend. You still have to praise me.
Exactly. And
again, yes, I don't claim to understand it all. It says I do not have the mind of God, and then this may be a video for another day. I don't want to get in the rabbit trails. This is your video, but I want you to think about this. Some of the words in the scripture actually in English don't mean what they say, but you actually have to look at the Hebrew and Greek, and they have a whole different meaning to them.
Well, that's it. So you have to learn another language to understand the creator of the universe.
You can look it up. You can look it up. They have so many dictionaries. You don't even have to learn it. But the truth is, again, if we were going to go deeper into this debate on God's character and why God does what he does, we'd have to know the meanings, and we might not be able to still figure it out. But anyway, that's just something to throw out you to be devil's advocate. But
sure,
I understand where you're coming from.
Right. Now, here's it. You say we don't understand why God does what he does, but as of now, I personally believe that people made up. Either they really believed or they deceived or they deceived us, or they really believed themselves, but either way, people did it thinking they were talking to a God and just saying it was God and saying it was some higher creator, but other religions have done it. And why? And I've asked Christians, I said, okay, I've pointed out other faiths, and they say, oh, that was the devil, oh, they were stupid, oh, they were liars, or they were deceived. And I say, okay, what makes you so different? And they can't answer. They say, you just got to believe. I say, no, that's not going to hold up in a courtroom testimony.
Yep. Yeah, again, this is a deep question. It's a great philosophical debate that we should have. And again, I'll admit, when I'm personally reflecting, I reflect on these same questions, like that young man just asked in that video. I'm thinking to myself, look, then I often think about if I was God, of course, and I'm not, obviously. I would, if I create them, I would make them perfect, and you wouldn't. That's just me, though.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, I just don't. Maybe there is a higher power of some kind. I mean, I believe there is, but I don't think it's something that any of us can comprehend or put into a book.
One guy told me, he's a believer like I am. He says, "Is God the ultimate gangster?" And that sounds crazy, especially when we're trying to come at this from a little bit of an academic perspective. But he basically breaks it down and says, well, look, a gangster might give you protection money and help you get and try to be your friend and give you money to help you out. I was watching a TV show this week, and Tulsa King with Sylvester Stallone, and and it fits in there with this video. So one of the characters is having financial troubles, marriage troubles. So this one guy, who's a big overlord in the town, starts being friendly to him, giving him money. But the purpose of that money is he wants information from him. He has a motive, so he's like being a gangster. Yeah, life. And then he says, well, life is transactional. So do we have a transactional God, or is it a gangster God, according to what we're discussing?
Right. You see, let's say hypothetically we were business people, and the mob came in, and we had to pay our tributes to them for protection, but then we also have the option of saying, you know what? Now I'm going to close the shop and move somewhere else away from the gangsters. But in theology and religion, you don't have that option. I think like your friend does. It's like a complete monopoly saying, yes, you have to pay me and me only, and no, you can't go anywhere else. It just doesn't seem right to me. Should we see the rest of the video, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Here, then there is no problem. If you just don't want the Savior, that's your own choice. So I don't really see a moral problem with this. Yeah, you weren't you didn't have a choice in your creation, but that's true whether God exists or not. And God sends the Savior, so why wouldn't you just take it?
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Blake.
That's an interesting point he made. Whether we're created, say there's not the Christian God, but some other higher being.
Yeah.
Did we have a choice in our creation?
I don't know, actually, because I have no memories prior to birth.
Me neither. Me neither. But if now I got to be fair here. If his point, he made a good point at the end. If it's evolutionary, say it's some other God, like you said, it could be some other higher power out there. We don't know. Maybe it's not Christian. He's not Jewish, not Muslim, but there's still all the chaos going on in the world. There's still
serial killers with psychopathic tendencies.
So,
how about, people when people say, I've also heard Christians say, oh, God made you just the way you are. I'm like, oh, really? So God made schizophrenics, psychotic killers who are also schizophrenic. I said, really, that just the way they are? I said, and they don't like it when I can contradict them with logic and reason.
I agree. I have a lot of the same questions. To be full disclosure, I am a believer, yes, but I'm not going to sit there and say I had 100% faith and I don't have questions. Of course, I have questions because I think it's healthy to have questions and to not just read things, but be able to question them. Or in debates, this is how we get smarter. The topic today is an interesting topic, and I may believe a certain way, but that doesn't mean I don't have questions.
Yeah, I was not raised Christian. I have always believed in a higher power, and I thought the closest thing to it was Christianity, or so I thought. It's because a lot of people I'm related to on my mom's side, they practice Christianity. My dad grew up Jewish, but he doesn't believe. And so I pursued it. And then as I explored it more and more, I'm like, wait a minute, sure, you might believe these as parables, right? As moral of the story types. I said, no, it literally happened this way. I said, hey, look, I'm no science expert, but no, science shows it didn't. And then they wouldn't accept. They said, well, it's a miracle. I said, I don't know. They go, well, if you don't believe you're going to hell, I'm like, okay, you guys are crazy. And over the years, I realized I'm not a Christian.
Well, and it's interesting. We talk science, but archaeology is part of science. Maybe as the channel gets bigger down the road, we can have these experts on both sides of the spectrum to discuss these things because there's also science has also a lot of ways benefited Christianity too, a lot of archaeological discoveries. So to be fair-minded, I think we should have some experts on here in the future. Because I would like to ask questions too. I don't claim to have all the answers.
Yeah, I don't either. And that's why I like talking with you, because you don't claim to know it all, and neither do I. It's just like we discussed before about predestination versus free will. Those are tough. Those are tough to think about.
Yeah, and then in Christianity, that is called Calvinism. It's a doctrine called Calvinism. And a lot of Reformed Presbyterians believe in that. That comes from a man in the early church during the Reformation called John Calvin. For those viewers out there, that's where that predestination doctrine comes from. But
he was from Switzerland, right? He was Swiss, was it?
I don't remember. I can't remember. I think he was, but don't quote me. But I had some of his commentaries. I've read them. I don't agree with him all the way. He does make some good points on some things, but he was one of the Reformation ones, along with Martin Luther and others. Martin Luther was a free will guy, I believe. But again, that we're getting. I don't want to get off topic, but it's good to discuss these things. I think that's the problem. We don't discuss these things, and whatever side we lean on it, whether as a believer or non-believer, we're afraid to discuss them, and we shouldn't be. We shouldn't be.
No, that's right. We shouldn't be. Joe, do you have anything to add to it?
No, I don't. But it's interesting. It's thought provoking. And folks out there, please watch these videos and please leave a comment on what you think. I mean, You can agree, you can disagree. Just all we ask is you be respectful and kind. Thank you for your support. Thank you for watching us. But please, once again, like, subscribe, share. Helps the algorithm. Bang the notification button. Follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter. And Dan, to the folks, I wish a great day and a great night wherever you're at.
And don't forget, folks, grab your independent mind and blaze.